Well, this is Jody Bruns with the Divorce Lending Association. Today, I am happy to introduce you to Tracy Ann Moore with the Amicable Divorce Network. Tracy has practiced exclusively in the area of family law in the North Georgia area since 2002, so 2 decades. Wow. She's focused her practice on all issues relating to family, including divorce, child custody, child support, domestic violence, and contempt issues. She regularly handles matters which, may be low conflict, such as an uncontested divorce, or very complex family law matters, such as cases involving psychological custody evaluations, small business, and retirement division. Tracy is the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. It's a network of legal, financial, and other professionals who are dedicated to working together to achieve a respectful divorce for their clients. And I'll be honest, that's a great phrase.
Thank you.
Sometimes I'll hear, we're working together to resolve things, but keeping it respectful. When I read that this morning, I was like, I like that phrase. Tracy, welcome to the Divorce Literacy Podcast. And thank you for always taking the time to speak to me when I reach out to you, and to be with us today, because I know you are a very busy person these days.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure that you and I both see some very different situations every single day working with our divorcing couples, because no two divorces are ever identical, right?
Never.
There's conflict. Sometimes they get along. Sometimes I hear, oh, we're getting along, it's an amicable divorce. And then all of a sudden, out the window,
right?
That goes. And, it surprises me how many divorcing spouses, they seem to have the same thoughts when they're starting the journey, of even thinking about divorce, that it's going to be ugly, it's going to be litigated, it's going to cost us thousands of dollars. And the thing that I've noticed is that most divorcing couples, they don't understand, that litigation is not the only way to handle divorce any longer. And it's an old concept, heck, what was it? I think it was the mid 1960s, to where you no longer had to establish fault. That all 50 states are now no fault divorce. But
and let's keep it that way. Just a shout out for keeping it no fault.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that there's still not going to be settlement and negotiation issues, and conflict in divorce. It just means that you can get divorced, right?
Exactly.
So you, in my opinion, and everyone else's opinion that I talk to, you're a remarkable and very strong family law attorney and a great mediator, again, over 2 decades. I'm curious to ask you, what did you see happening, throughout the family law, area, your interaction with divorcing couples, as well as divorce professionals? What were you seeing that you found a need to establish and found the Amicable Divorce Network?
Great question. And it's a big, big answer. So I'll do my best. So just cut me off, just wave if I just keep talking. But the reality is, if you just take a huge step back, that only 5% of divorce cases ever see the inside of a courtroom. And so what that means is that 95%, and I've seen the number be higher, I'm just going to be conservative, 95% don't see the inside of a courtroom, which means they are settling their cases. They're settling themselves through their attorneys, through mediation, arbitration, all these sorts of different ways. But the system is set up for attorneys to earn a lot of money and create a lot of conflict in your family, preparing your case for a trial. And it's just absolutely unnecessary work 95% of the time. And if you happen to be in the 95 and you got to switch to be that special 5%, there is no harm. You've gained a lot of ground in switching lanes. You're not going to lose any traction there. So what I found particularly disturbing as a mediator and as an attorney is a client would come to me and say very reasonable questions. How long is this divorce going to take and how expensive is it going to be?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has those questions. I would too. And my answer repeatedly was, I don't know. And the reason I couldn't answer those questions is because I would be saying, I don't know who your spouse is going to hire. And if they are a high conflict attorney, this is going to be, top of the charts, expensive. This is going to be terrible emotionally. Your kids could get involved. If it is somebody that I get along well with and is resolution focused, then we're going to be on the other end of that spectrum. And so they would ask me, they would say, well, my spouse seemed maybe pretty open to suggestion. We have a good relationship. Can you write down on a Post-it note who they should hire? And, what sort of credibility does a handwritten Post-it note have? Like zero, right? So I thought, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all the good actors, the people that I work together very well. I know they work together with other people very well. And we're just going to put them on a website somewhere. And we're going to call it the Amicable Divorce Network. And it's going to be just sort of a, local Georgia thing where people can go to find professionals in a neutral place, not on a Post-it note, that work well together. And it absolutely snowballed from there very quickly. We had so many professionals reaching out, wanting to be in the organization. And then we just kept having different professionals wanting to be a part of it. And so as of now, we are international. We welcome members from anywhere, as well as any type of person who helps divorcing couples. So we are always hearing from new types of professionals who are like, well, I help divorce people in this way. I'm a wellness professional, or, I have this very specialized tax service, or, whatever it is. They are all welcome. If you help divorcing couples, you can be part of our group.
Nice. Well, can you explain for our listeners what makes a divorce amicable?
Yeah, so that's the kicker. So people going through a divorce are still upset. They are still angry. They may have complicated issues. Very rarely do you have that unicorn couple who are both very calm, who have decided to get a divorce and they want to be very reasonable. Everybody thinks they need to be that couple to get an amicable divorce, and you don't. You can be whatever you want to be. You can have all the emotions that you have. You can be as angry as you want to be. The amicable factor in the Amicable Divorce Network is the professionals. We vet all of the professionals for being resolution focused, experienced in their industry. This is not for new attorneys to cut their teeth or other professionals, and for engaging in fair billing practices. People most often do not hire attorneys because they are afraid of the cost and the conflict that they will inflict upon their situation. And so they do these DIY results, which are terrible, or they just end up hiring somebody who has the best advertising on the internet, things of that nature. So we really want to filter people who want, maybe they're very upset and hurt, but they don't want to spend $50,000 on a contested litigation. They want to work it out towards our professionals because they are vetted for being the good actors in the family law system. And I hate to say there's a ton of bad ones, but we collect all the good eggs and put them in our Amicable Divorce Network basket for people who want those types of professionals. These are the good actors who will work with you and get it done.
So I know you and I had a conversation the other day about the do-it-yourself, divorces and the pro se, percentages that are out there. And I'm just going to share, with our audience, some of the numbers that, I've read about lately and have heard, when I, did my research and stuff, the numbers for the petitioner who act as pro se, which obviously means you're representing yourself, ranged anywhere from 49% of divorces in the United States right now to, 90%, that I heard the other day. So, anywhere from 49 to 90%, obviously depends on where you are, where those, numbers fit in, are filing for divorce on their own. And then the number that I saw pretty, across the board being the same was that upwards of 90% of respondents, so the other spouse, are representing themselves. Right. And I would assume, again, it is because of the cost, and they think they can work things out. So, what I'm hearing you say, and then I want our listeners to understand, is that they can do it more amicable and fairly, cost, et cetera, through the Amicable Divorce Network. Correct. And, in my, experience working with, clients who are going pro se, they're reaching out to us, as certified divorce lending professionals, asking us for advice. Well, that's not what we do.
Right.
We are not going to provide legal advice.
Yeah.
So I would really love to be able to help you, get the word out that there is an alternative, in protecting
absolutely.
yourself, not because the normal consumer who's filing for divorce, they don't understand the tax implications. They don't understand the legalities, that are involved. Leave it to that professional. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes. If parties have any sort of asset, especially a home, if they have children, they should really not DIY their divorce. I've seen so many horrendous mistakes. I actually met with somebody today who came through a certified divorce lending professional. They had reached out because they needed to do an equity buyout on their home, but that actually isn't what it said in their settlement agreement. And so they, were referred back to us to say, you need to fix this paperwork. And when I got my hands on that paperwork, it had not a word in it about taxes, not a word in it about these retirement accounts that were proper. So when they went to go apply for that mortgage, they could have been kicked out and rejected. And the reality is, we caught this one early. Their divorce had not been finalized. So we're able to amend that paperwork, get it all nailed down for them, get it correct, get them on the road to success. But if they had had that case finalized, my hands would be tied on what I could do for them. And so issues could come up with credit reporting agencies, taxes. Don't get me started on children. To touch on your DIY statistics, I haven't heard those. I wouldn't be surprised, but in what I have heard is some insider information that 80% of people who attempt a DIY divorce cannot complete it. And they aren't able to do the paperwork properly. And they sort of spiral around in the court system, just flailing, like, how do I get a divorce? Taking time off work to go to the court and get it figured out. And they're just not able to do it. So we do help people, of course, with uncontested divorces. If they have an agreement and they want it done properly, our professionals are a great resource who will sit down and help you get it done properly, get all the correct information in there, give you some advice on how to do that. But then we also have, for two parties who are unable to communicate, are unable to get it done themselves, we do have the out-of-court amicable divorce process for parties who say, we don't want a bloodbath. We maybe are very angry at one another. We cannot talk. We don't know how to calculate these, calculations for child support. And we don't know how to talk about a parenting plan, but we want to get it done. And so they can use our process.
So one of the things, well, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a certified mediator as well.
Oh, wonderful.
So I don't actually do the mediation, but I am involved and called in so many different times during mediation to help facilitate, the negotiation, the options, et cetera, when the marital home or other real property, is on the table. And I think it benefits, me and, the couple and the mediators that I'm assisting with, that I understand the mediation process, that it's not just black and white, you have to listen, you have to understand, you have to get everyone to come to the table, basically to try to remove any conflict. And one of the things, that I like about mediation is that, and you'll agree with this, I'm sure, that when people are involved in making the decision, they're more likely to stick with it after the fact because they had input, rather than going to litigation and having the judge and the court say, this is what you will do. Right. There's that resentment that's built up there. And I think that that's one of the advantages or most important things about being able to divorce amicably is life afterwards. Correct. Especially when you have children involved. So do you see parents, specifically, that they may have a more positive relationship with each other after the divorce if they've used, some type of alternative dispute resolution, such as the amicable divorce process? What do you see as that positive impact after the divorce is final? Because so many people are focused on, what do I get? What do I have to give? What's it going to cost me? That they're so focused on settling that they don't realize that, okay, there's life afterwards. And if you have no children, fine, you could probably go your own separate ways, never have anything to do with each other. But when there's children involved, you
it's a
have
very
to be
imperfect system. That's another reason I just was like, the court system is like, where they say putting a square peg in a round hole. It's not good for families. So when I don't litigate anymore, I haven't stepped inside a courtroom as an attorney. I think 2019 may have been the last time. So my entire practice is helping people take control of their family and their divorce, come up with a solution for themselves, and take the control away from a stranger judge who knows nothing about your family, doesn't have the time to learn about your family, and, would not give you the result. If you're looking for emotional justice in the court system, you're going to be incredibly disappointed and broke. The court system is designed, even in the very pleading, party one versus party two, especially, think about that when you have kids, one parent versus other parent. And you don't have any sort of way to go to court and to say, Judge, I had a really good idea about a parenting plan. And I think my spouse's idea is pretty decent, but we just can't come up with an agreement. We still want to do holidays a little different. And they're a good parent and I'm a good parent. But we just can't work out this parenting plan. That is not how court works.
Yeah.
Court is say as many nasty things as you can about the other parent. And they're going to say as many nasty things as they can about you. Some things are completely exaggerated, are made up, are just way taken out of context. And when the moment you step out of that court and you have an order and a parenting plan, you better be the best co-parents that the world has ever seen, or the very next day that parent can file contempt of court against you or a modification action. And so you are immediately charged with acting like the best co-parents that ever were, after going through this bloodbath of mudslinging, because there is no other way to get what you want.
Yeah.
Our process and our professionals are focused on a child-centered approach, on mental health, on helping people reach reasonable parenting plans through alternate dispute resolution, mediation, arbitration, parent coordination, settlement conferences, whatever it takes to get everybody to the finish line, and focusing on what's best for the children and also the parties. How do we keep them positive? How do we reframe their thinking, to help them, get their mind around this new reality? And so these are tools and things that are not used in litigation.
So I will tell you, this is my own personal experience. That is, unfortunately, parents going through a divorce, they don't get it.
Right.
They don't understand the hidden effect, if you will, on the kids. I usually don't bring in my own personal, experience with divorce, but, my ex-husband and I, we have 5 children and they were 7 years apart. Yeah, I was busy. But after our divorce, he didn't speak to me for probably 12 years, until the kids were adults. And then by then there was resentment built up in the kids towards that, because even though I would try to communicate directly with him, he would communicate back to me through them. Which is unfair. And we didn't go through, mediation or anything. We went, straight to court. And it's unfortunate because, we handled it as a business decision, or situation, rather than really taking into consideration the impact on the kids. And now they're all adults, they're all married, they are having families, and there's still, this built-in resentment, for them. And I would hope that, and obviously that was a long time ago, where, mediation and stuff like that wasn't really the big thing, and the best options out there. And I would really hope that, anyone who's listening today and they're in this situation, to really seek out a more amicable approach to resolving your divorce, just because there are things that happen when that divorce is final that you're not thinking about right now because you're so focused on the divorce.
Correct. I would always advise anybody who is going through a divorce or looking at going through a divorce, even if it's 6 months, a year from now, you're just not happy, you're just not sure, and you just maybe want to meet with somebody, you absolutely need to be looking at their website and asking these professionals certain questions. You need to be seeing, are they also a mediator? Are they resolution focused? If the only tool in their toolbox is litigation, if you ask them, how would you resolve my case? How would my case end? What's your plan for my case? And they say, oh, we're going to file these motions and we're going to go to trial and we're going to have this hearing and we're going to really stick it to them and we're going to take these depositions. That is the only thing that's going to happen to you, because that is the only tool available to them. They are a litigator. They are out there and they are going to make a ton of money off you. The most expensive service that you can pay for from an attorney is to hire their anger.
Oh.
If you are angry and you are upset and you want to go hire an attorney who is a mouthpiece of your anger into the court system and at your spouse, you can absolutely find a ton of attorneys who are going to take your hard-earned money. You can hire their anger and you are going to end up, I almost guarantee you, in the exact same position you would have with a resolution-focused attorney who triaged your case, looked at the issues, told you the easiest way, the cheapest way to get this resolved, and worked on that for you for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And you might feel good for a few minutes that they sent that nasty letter that cost you a couple $100 and you get a real charge out of that. And you're like, oh, they really stuck it to them. None of it really ends up legally changing the needle very much. And so you really have to, I think, take a moment and understand, and on the front end, that your anger, paying an attorney to highlight that anger into the court system is really, first, not an effective communication tool, and secondly, not going to get you anywhere. And you do have the choice as a person going through a divorce to choose how you want to get divorced. It is not a one size fits all, and litigation is not the only option anywhere in the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom. And I can say that because Amicable Divorce Network is in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And so you can choose uncontested, amicable, or the bloodbath of litigation. And so the consumers have that choice.
Yeah. So I know that you are a huge supporter of what we do, at the Divorce Lending Association and our Certified Divorce Lending Professional CDLP program. And I very much appreciate that. Obviously, there are a ton of emotions tied to the family home for most divorces.
Oh, yes.
It's where the kids grew up. It's where your happy times were. And in many of the cases, that I work with or I'm involved with, I see a lot of conflict, and usually that conflict arises mostly out of a lack of knowledge and understanding just how divorce is going to impact, their ability to obtain mortgage financing, whether they're trying to do a refinance of the current mortgage to remove their other spouse's name, or do an equity buyout, to pay them their share of the equity, or sometimes, they're selling the home and both spouses have to be in a position to buy a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They don't realize that, there's a shift, in household income. Yeah. There might be new sources of income, whether it's spousal support, child support, or maybe you're actually the one that's going to be paying, some type of support. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand that divorce is a game changer. It might have been easy for them to get the mortgage to buy their house, but divorce literally throws a wrench into things. And I know that you work with one of our CDLPs, Jennifer Brown, in Atlanta. I love her. She's totally amazing.
Yeah.
But let me know and let our listeners know, how do you, handle the family home matters? How are you integrating, divorce mortgage planning into your case management?
So what everybody needs to understand, if you are listening and you are a person facing divorce, you're a divorce professional, you need to understand an attorney is not a mortgage professional. And I had to answer some of these questions earlier today. So if you go to your attorney and you say, can I do an equity buyout? They're going to say absolutely, because that is one of the legal options that you can choose in a settlement agreement. You can say they're going to refinance, they're going to do an equity buyout, they're going to sell the home, they're going to do something else, and you're going to get a co-signer. That's a legal option that's available to you. So your attorney is going to say, yes, that's great. You go to the mortgage financing person, they may look at all the numbers and say, you absolutely cannot do an equity buyout. The information is completely different. So an attorney may say that's an available option to you, but in the next sentence, let's see if that's a financial option for you. Please meet with a certified divorce lending professional. All the time I am in mediation with other attorneys, and they will make an offer. So-and-so is going to do an equity buyout within 90 days is a popular thing for somebody's doing this that hasn't had a job. Or I look at their income and I'm sort of like, oh, I don't know about this. And they sign up for a court agreement when they have never talked to somebody in financing. And particularly, I had this situation this week. Somebody reached out to Jennifer Brown, like I said, about this agreement. And they had agreed on an equity buyout. Nobody had investigated if this was even a possibility. They just wanted the paperwork, redrawn. And I had to say, legally, I can absolutely draw that up for you. Financially, I have absolutely no idea if you qualify for this. So the answers are completely different, and you need to have a match. So before you reach a settlement that obligates you to do these things, you need to consult with a certified divorce lending professional if a mortgage is involved. And what Jennifer does, and all the CDLPs that are in our network, and it's great. This is a game changer for an attorney. If somebody has a goal for the house, I say, you meet with a CDLP and they will type up a beautiful email for me about what your options are. For example, they can only pull $50,000 out of the house. They can only refinance up to, $250,000. Based on the financing and what's available, there's certain limits. When I take that email into negotiations and say, my client can only pull out $50,000. That's it. I mean, that's the end of the conversation. We're not spending multiple hours negotiating. No, she should pull out 100 because she cannot pull out 100. So the conversation is nipped in the bud. Yeah. And if the client can't qualify for a refinance or an equity buyout, guess what? Jennifer or another certified divorce lending professional is the bearer of bad news, not me. So that just makes my job all the easier, because they're looking at financing guidelines are what they are. They're not subject to negotiation. And it really helps settle cases, actually, to get solid information on what is available, not what you hope was available.
Well, what I always find interesting is, a lot of people think that an equity buyout is a type of loan. It's not.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a legal process of acquiring your other spouse's ownership interest. The court, the settlement agreement, everything can say you have to refinance, but they cannot dictate what type of loan you qualify for.
Right.
And, we go through, our own kind of like 4 phases of divorce mortgage planning. And the first step is vetting the house. They don't realize that there may be certain details, including ownership, other situations of the house itself that is going to dictate what type of loan product you'll either qualify for. And, the thing they don't really understand is the various loan programs that they may fit in, again, just because of the property, not because of their income, not because of their credit scores. It can limit their access to equity, right? And they don't get it, and it's not just refinancing. If you are selling the marital home, and both spouses need to purchase, well, let's say that there's support income involved. The spouse who's paying spousal support, they're going to be able to go out and, most likely apply for a mortgage, buy a house immediately. But what about the spouse who needs to purchase their own home, but they have to meet the requirements of receipt, et cetera, for spousal income? They may not be able to purchase a house for 6 months.
Exactly. So and that could impact your custody and where you're living with the kids and getting them to school. And it has all the, you got to deal with this huge asset first, because it's not just an asset. It's not just like a 401k. It isn't similar to that. It is where people live. It could
Yes.
impact your custodial arrangements. It impacts your budget. I had a really interesting case. One of the first ones I used a CDLP on, and it was Jennifer, of course, that she had run the numbers, and she came up with this scenario, not knowing what we had come up with, where I forget if it was child support or alimony, but it was some type of support where if this amount changed by just $17 a month, then one person would qualify for a refinance. And taking that document and saying, we just need to change this by, let's just be safe and say $18 a month, you know, done deal. And then I knew my client was set up for success.
Yeah.
You know, and so having that information is key, and people are often skipping over it. But with the Amicable Divorce Network and our process, all of our members are educated about the use of CDLPs. We educate the public and get them connected with the right professionals so that they are successful in what their goals are. And if they can't be successful, we look at the next option that's available to them.
So, you know, I want to be obviously very respectful of your time today. So if there was one final thought that you could give our listeners today, you know, who may either be facing divorce themselves, or maybe they're a divorce professional who would like to get involved in the Amicable Divorce Network, you know, what would that final thought be? How would our listeners, if they are a professional, you know, get involved with the Amicable Divorce Network as well?
So if you are somebody facing divorce, we have two websites, amicableddivorcenetwork.com. That is for our professionals, so they can head there as well. We also have divorceamicably.com. That is for people going through divorce. So that is more advice and information and blog posts about going through a divorce. If you are going through a divorce, I would just reflect on what I said before, know your options. On our website is a checklist that you can take into your divorce consult. We have articles on red flags about how attorneys do their billing that you can look out for. And so all the information is out there to just get savvy before your appointment. Meet with one or two or three, whatever makes you comfortable. It should feel like a partnership with your attorney. It shouldn't feel like they're just driving the ship. This is your life, it's your ship. So make sure that you are getting the experience you want, and that the divorce type that you are selecting is going to set you up for where you want to be 5 years after the divorce. How do you want your life to be? Is it going to be complete destruction financially and emotionally? Maybe that's good for you. I certainly hope not. Or is it going to be something that's very successful and peaceful for you? If you are a professional, we vet all of our members. And so if you're listening to this and you're interested, you can head over to amicableddivorcenetwork.com. Under membership resources, there's an application there, and you can fill that out, and we will vet you. And if you're approved, we will certainly let you know that.
Awesome. Well, Tracy, again, thank you very, very much for your time today. And I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for creating this organization. It is a game changer for the divorce industry, and it's really appreciated.
Thank you, Tracy. Have a great day.